Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting with our upcoming session that delves into a thought-provoking question. Are present-day hotels a threat to traditional architecture? As we navigate the evolution of hospitality, exploring the impact of modern hotels on traditional architectural landscapes, this promises to be an enlightening and insightful discussion. I hope all of you are very excited as our esteemed panelists will be joining us very soon and sharing their perspectives on the delicate balance between contemporary trends in the hospitality industry and the preservation of timeless architectural heritage. I hope all of you are prepared for a session that will definitely unravel the complexities of this crucial conversation and offer all of us with a fresh insight into the symbiotic relationship between the present-day hospitality and the rich tapestry of our traditional architecture. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite our moderator onto the stage, Mr. Anil Sharma. His journey began at IIT Roorkee in 1982, and after valuable experiences with Bharadwaj and Associates and Kabel Associates, where he contributed to prestigious projects, he embarked on his own architectural venture, Anil Sharma Associates, in 1989, and under his guidance, ASA has definitely left an indelible mark, particularly with the acclaimed Holiday Inn Pune, also recognized as the best new hotel of the year in the Asia-Pacific region. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Anil Sharma with a big round of applause. I'd also like to invite our first panelist, Mr. Aman Nath, who has been a force in advertising, co-authored 14 acclaimed books, including Christie's internationally marketed Jaipur. And his contribution extends to the restoration of India's architectural ruins, now the Neem Rana Hotel, also earning awards from UNESCO and the Indian travel industry. Very excited to have Mr. Nath with us. I'd also like to invite Mr. Chris Singer to kindly join us onto the stage, the Managing Director at SY Studio Private Limited. He's a well-known architect in the hotel design industry and has over 30 years of experience working globally with a wide range of brands, delivering characterful, beautiful resorts. Very excited to have Mr. Chris join us in this discussion as well. I'd also like to invite our third panelist, Ms. Priyanka Sahe, Corporate Director, Technical Services, the Indian Hotels Company Limited. She is an accomplished hospitality professional with 18 plus years of extensive experience in design management, interior designing, and hotel openings under various IHCL brands. We're very excited to have Ms. Sahe with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd also like to invite our next panelist onto the stage, Mr. Sahil Khan, who's the Senior Director of Design and Technical Services for Radisson Hotel Group in South Asia. He has over 2 decades of experience in design management and project coordination of luxury to upper middle scale hotels. Very glad that Mr. Khan could be with us in this particular session. Ladies and gentlemen, our final panelist to join and complete this session, Mr. Senthil Kumar ji. Mr. Senthil Kumar is a graduate of School of Architecture, and he has also attended executive business courses from AiM Ahmedabad. We are very glad that Mr. Senthil could join with us because he works closely with hotel owners and their professional team to ensure the best techniques, methods, and processes that are adopted to deliver excellent hotels. Ladies and gentlemen, the stage is all set, and now I'd like to request Mr. Sharma to kindly carry forward this session, and wishing all our panelists an excellent discussion.
Good afternoon, everybody. You heard about social responsibility from the monks and also from the finance guys. Now is the time when we delve into the realm of architecture and see where the social responsibility leading us to. Finance and economics are the biggest driving force today in the world. And in turn, they drive the hospitality sector too. The brands are relentlessly working to make hotels efficient and cost-effective, to maximize the profits for the owner. They are moving towards creating a standardized template across the brands to make cookie cutter hotels. I trust some of the brands have a package for architecture, structure, MEP, ID, and ID, everything combined, including structural construction documentation sets, even for a full service hotel. Is it really true? Let me ask this to the brands. Is it true that there is a package for certain hotels where you don't need an architect, interior design, ID, or are you working on it to make it template so that you have cookie cutter hotels all around? Senthil?
Oh, thank you so much, sir, for the panel. Sir, of course, as brands, we have prototypes and templates for various brands. But what the prototype and template says is we need to get the local context also to it.
Okay.
So we always try to have certain percentage of local context. For example, suppose if you want to build a hotel in Kathmandu here, we want to get that local context to it, but maintaining that consistency aspect with our particular brand, whatever it may be. For example, like if it's a Hilton Garden Inn, we have a complete prototype being developed. So we want Garden Inn to incorporate those local nuances also when we try to build that as a template.
All right. Senthil?
Good afternoon, and thank you for getting me on this panel. As far as Radisson Hotel Group is concerned, we do not have to give you a straight answer whether we have a package which is so developed that we don't need architects and interior designers anymore. The answer is clearly no. What we do have, and like all other brands, are a set of brand standards which help us sort of develop a very consistent product. And within the brand standards, there is enough leeway for each hotel to have its individual character, whilst returning the brand ethos, which sort of gives a very consistent approach to our guests, and also allow the hotel to have its own unique character. We do very firmly believe that every hotel has to have a sense of place. Ultimately, whatever we might do as a group, we have to consider or take into consideration a guest's journey and his or her expectations. And I, for sure, do not believe in the fact that if somebody is coming to Kathmandu, should not get the flavor of Kathmandu. At the end of the day, airports and hotels are gateway to any city. And if the product doesn't do justice to the environment, I don't think that's a very sensible approach. That's our take.
All right. Priyanka, the Taj have anything like that? I mean,
hello, hi everyone, and thank you, AiM, for having me here to discuss this very pressing topic of our present-day hotels, a threat to the traditional architecture. I think with the ever-evolving landscape of hospitality industry, we should also, it's very crucial to examine its impact on our cultural and architectural heritage. And coming to your question, I don't think all the hotels have that cookie cutter design. There are some brands which have cookie cutter design. So where that cookie cutter thing or that standardization is not there, obviously we need the designers for designing that. But even if it's a cookie cutter design, you need an expert or a professional to actually adapt the standardized thing along with, because every site is specific, every city has its own character. So you need the expertise to have that balance between achieving the brand identity as well as incorporating it as per the local norms or the local site conditions, or also, as very rightly he said, the sense of place. So whenever we built a hotel, the sense of place is something very important which we want to imbibe in our hotels. So there are brands, but I don't think it can be done without the expertise of of a professional.
Chris, you've been doing, you're an architect practicing, you've been doing hotels. You must have heard about these cookie cutter or consumer documentation packages from certain brands. Is it there? Does it exist? Or it's just a myth? Because right now, I think all the three brands are saying, no, they don't have any cookie cutter template.
It's still there. It's still being pushed, particularly, I think, for the more select service properties, where operators are trying to package up an offering to their clients direct, with a kind of an automatically designed set of documents. And then that leads, hopefully, into pre-manufactured guest room modules, which can, again, accelerate and, in theory, make a more economic process. So that's there, but it seems to be really at the, I guess, the 1-star, 2-star end. As soon as we go into hotels where the operating companies are considering their guests more carefully, more thoughtfully, then, you know, the reason the guest is traveling is to have an experience of a location, right? Otherwise, they don't need to travel. So when they arrive, they want to see something that reflects that location. And that's where, you know, we as a master planner or architecture or interior designers also come in to spend quite a lot of effort, actually, working within the brand guidelines to create something unique. And I think all the operators expect us to know the brand guidelines off by heart. That's a given. But often what we're finding now is they're pushing us and challenging us to break some of the rules, try something a bit different to make the property stand out. So I think it's a really interesting time now to be working, certainly in 4-star, 5-star luxury categories, because there's such a lot of pressure to develop standout properties. It's a competitive market. So that's what we as designers can do, I think, yeah.
I'll reserve my comments on Mr. Amarnath for a little later, because he's the wisest man amongst all of us here. And he's been in the industry for a long, long time. But meanwhile, let's understand it from a different perspective, because right now, as far as my experience goes, I've heard that some of the brands have a big package. You just take it, just do it, go and build it, hire a local architect for municipal approvals, build whatever, and this is a package, and you go and build the thing. But that is kind of a template being made. And also, Chris, from you, because you've done so many more hotels, have you faced this challenge that you are trying to adopt something local and the brands are saying no because we want consistency in our product. We do not want it to be looking very different from this to that. And so that look and feel has to be maintained. We do not want any, say, sometimes a religious connotation or sometimes any local connotation so much. We want it.
Yeah.
Have you faced that challenge?
I think there was a time when that was the case, maybe 10, 15 years ago. You know, a Holiday Inn was a Holiday Inn, whether it's in Chile or Czechoslovakia, you know, it's the same kit of parts. But not now. Now I think, you know, that they really are pushing for more interpretation of the guidelines, and they're very willing to accept alternatives. When we go to a location, we spend quite a bit of time studying how people eat, how people relax. If it's a city, you know, where do they go in the city? If it's in the country, what do they do? And then trying to build these things into our design. And often they'll accept and support those differences. And if they're really good, then they'll go back to their head office and explain why this is a good deviation to make in a business case. You know, it's going to add revenue, which I think at the end of the day is the key thing. We want hotels to make revenue. So we should fine-tune our product to make revenue in that locality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as a brand, would you say that IHCL or say a Taj here in Delhi or in Bombay or in Jammu Kashmir or in Pahalgam or say in Chennai, should have a kind of a similar look and feel and character, or should it be different for different particular zone and different region?
So I'll just give you a few examples. So if you see, all our hotels have that character of the city because it's very important to get it. And if you are talking about the brands like Taj, Selections, Vivanta also to that matter, we try to achieve or adapt as per the local architecture. I'll give you a few examples. Like we have done a hotel in Wayanad, and if you see that, it's totally inspired by the local architecture. And not only the architecture is inspired, we have actually involved artisans from the local tribes, and they have come and
Wow.
painted the walls and also done some painting on the roof, and other art and craft are also used in the interior design. So if you see, there is a story to tell in that project. And another example, which is an ongoing project, we are doing a project in Hampi. So Hampi has a very strong landscape, natural landscape. And the design is actually based on the natural landscape, the architecture, the temple architecture of Hampi, and also the art and crafts which is available there. So the designs, although it's a modern, all the facilities are modern, the design can show you that, okay, it can only be built in Hampi and nowhere else. So that is why that character is important, and we are keeping that in mind, and it's a very important aspect when we guide the designer to design any hotel in that particular city.
Sahil, your take on this question?
My take is very clear. There is no clear answer to your question. And at the end of the day, you really have to understand where are we positioning the hotel. Now, there are various segments under which you position a hotel, starting from mid-scale. And I'll keep this discussion to Radisson Hotel Group. As far as I'm concerned, we have hotels from mid-scale category to the luxury sector.
Right.
So when it comes to mid-scale, you know that the customer is only going to spend that much, which has to do justice in terms of investment. So maybe in the mid-scale category or at the lower echelons, it makes more sense to keep it more consistent, yet have some bit of individuality. But as you go up in the spectrum, and when you're talking about upper upscale and luxury, there is a much more unique and an engaging experience that the guest wishes to have, because the guest has got many choices. And there, I think it is very important that, yes, you have some brand principles, you have certain brand directions, but the product that you should be creating should be truly unique. So that's my answer to your question.
Senthil?
So, let's take from a different perspective. Like over the years, the hospitality design has been evolved a lot. So was the guest experience. So if you really look into the guest experience, these days what hospitality brands are really looking into is, rather than delivering a simple, comfortable stay, what are the experience we are going to deliver to the guest? So either it's starting from the focus service brand or till to the luxury or the lifestyle segment. So we need to give a story to the guest who's going to come to the hotel. Guests may be vary from, various preferences. So we need to deliver that, I would say maybe more of a cultural immersion, I would say, rather than, So we are doing a couple of projects across India. We are doing a project in Hyderabad. It's a more of a resort where we are looking into local environment a lot. So we are using completely a local materials. So it really going to blend in the overall environment where it's going to build. There is it's going to reduce the environmental footprint in terms of carbon emissions. And it's really easy to relate to the customers who's going to come to that property. In the same manner, I would say, the traditional architecture really, we are trying to interpret it now. We are not trying to, there are a lot of ways to interpret it, how to present that one in current modern aspects. So we are trying to interpret that in the right manner, and we are doing the Hilton Kathmandu, which is going to launch sooner here in Kathmandu. So they're starting from the facade till to the last element of detail, everything has been interpreted to the right manner, to deliver the right experience with a twist, I would say, rather than presenting the olden heritage, what we currently have, how we can present it in a refreshed manner. So that's what my take is.
Okay. Great. So I think we are talking about still maintaining the consistency and the standards while trying to subtly respond to the local references and make it appear local. But does it really serve the purpose? Now I'll put the last question to Mr. Amarnath. Is the hospitality industry ready for the challenge to reinvent their brands from already established conventions and practices to a new one which is willing to adapt and embrace the diversity, local culture, ethnicity, and yet retain their unique identity? You've been running a most successful heritage hotel. Yeah. Oops.
Okay. No, if you allow me, I'd like also to go back to the previous question you asked everybody.
Yep.
I think in all fairness to all the speakers, there's always a context in time and in place. So we're talking India because, you know, I've come from India, and Nepal was a little ahead of India in that respect. When the Taj Mahal Hotel came up in Bombay in 1904, we were a colonized country. We had huge complexes. So the whole purpose of D and Tata was to say, we are as good as you. Because, there's this thing about he wasn't allowed into a hotel or some story. So the race was against demonstrating that we are as good as the British. So then he was a rich man, he got all those people, he did a crystal ballroom and all that. And that went on. And I wasn't there then, but I've written a book on the Tata, so I researched that very well. So all the inputs came from abroad. So we were not trying to do what you are talking about. That's a very recent thing. Even when the Oberoi Hotel came up in New Delhi, from where I am, the year was 1965. It opened as an intercontinental. And the whole thing was, why do people spend money? Why do people travel? They travel to see the difference. Today, today it's established that we travel to see the difference. That time, if we went out to the Oberoi Hotel, we didn't want it to look like an Indian, because we'd come from an Indian home. So we wanted to go to New York, or we wanted to go to London, or whatever our historical complexes were. So that went on for quite a long time. And even the Americans, who were so scared because they thought they'd die in every flight in India, they would get food poisoned in everything, they would get malaria, they would get, they were terrified. It was like, I'm going to the moon, I hope I come back kind of experience. So if they had Coca-Cola and hot dog, they knew they were home, they were not going to die, and they went out, So we've come a long way. It's very late in somewhere during college or sometime, a restaurant opened in Delhi. It was called the Rasoi. And it was scandalous because we only had Volga, Gaylords. We had, we were trying not to be ourselves because we were so ashamed of ourselves. And even when we became independent, when Nehru wants to make a new city, he says, of course, the British have just gone, so we don't want to talk about them. So he gets an American architect to do this. And that American architect was terrified to come to India. That was that India. So he has a Polish assistant. He says, you go and you come back because I don't want to die in India of some disease which we don't know about. And as it happened, that Polish architect coming back from India died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
So the American was right, So then Nehru says, now what do? We can't talk. So then they get Corbusier, who's French, Swiss, whatever. Yep. But what does he give us? He gives us modernism and all that because we had all those complexes. So today, when a hotel opens, now I don't mean this as any criticism because we are all family in-house. We are talking very openly. This is a very beautiful, functional space. It's got its space right where the right amount of people, we can talk to each other, we have a dialogue. But let's discuss the design of this. Now, this is a vaulted roof, which actually is 16th century Rajasthan or whatever. So the purpose of this roof was because there was no steel at that time, so you couldn't span such a wide roof. So you made a dome,
Correct.
you built all this thing, and then you removed it. And this is a very good use of it, but I don't know if this is Nepalese or not. And when I walked into this, I remembered a conference hall I went to in a hotel in New York. So if you look at it like this, you could be anywhere. So even the Oberoi, you see, then this whole thing started when people started saying, when you wake up, you don't know which country you're in. You could be, in a Hyatt, in an Oberoi. So then this started happening. So the revamped Oberoi, there was one revamp before this, started to get Indian fabrics, Indian something. And the Taj Mahal Hotel, because that time there were no interior decorators. So J.R.D. Tata's sister, she did the interior. So people who were well-born, who traveled all over the world, had better taste. So she knew antiques, paintings, furniture. So I personally believe that Taj Mahal was really beautiful. But then a recycle has happened when we are again, I don't know for what reason, because I thought in our time we had got over the complexes. Because when I was a child and I went for an exchange program to the American school, I was here and that American boy was here because he came in a terrific car and, they were smarter, etc. And then in my lifetime, I've seen this happen. And today we can say, without being pompous or arrogant, that we also feel like this, where if I was called to the British High Commission to have dinner with the Queen of England, I didn't have any complex because, they taught us this language over 300 years, and they say, oh, you speak very good English. Have you studied in England? I said, no, you've come and taught it to us. So when all those complexes are got over, in design the same happens. We are now saying, we'll give you a chappar, we will give you a massage in a Kerala thing. So some parts like Kerala was ahead, like Nepal was ahead because lots of foreigners came. So when you come with a distant eye, then you see it's like ghar ki murgi dal barabar. Okay, so you're not going to build what is in a village. But glorified, that's what you want. So in all fairness to all these brands, they're all, I think, now shaking themselves and getting over the sameness. Maybe from the outside it is, and as we've heard some brilliant talks, 30% carbon and all that. So now they're working on those things. Earlier it was just to make something terrific, so you felt good that you entered it, you paid a lot of money and you came out.
All right. I understand what you're saying. I will now put I'll try one more way of looking at it because we're seeing hotels being built all over the country, in India, in Nepal also. Presently, I think 7, 8 hotels have opened. If we look at the hotels in Bhutan, Bhutan has been very, very strict as far as their aesthetics control is concerned. They never allowed. You could do whatever you wanted from outside, but they have insisted that this has to be followed. Similarly, I think even Kathmandu or Nepal still has as good a tradition of architectural style, as strong the style as Bhutan had. But here, because of again, the same mindset which he is talking about, Manaz is talking about, that bring everything, put all glass everywhere, you see glass. You may not need glass over the glass here, but all our buildings are being made. And when the rest of the buildings are being made that way, I will not say only hotel projects, but if you see Gurgaon, everywhere else, you see the huge glasses on west facades. I mean, this has no reason to be there on the west, but that has been happening. There's only to say, oh, we can be Singapore, we can be France, we can be England. That's the kind of aspiration that is being demonstrated by the architectural practices there. And the similar thing is happening in this. But in the bargain, what's happening, because this is being led by the industry. The glass industry is controlling the whole development there, because they say, oh, you put this, you use split glass, you get your 2 points for green rating, and you get your platinum rated green building, putting that facade on the glass there. That guy from Gunfa said, EQI, whatever your energy performance, EPI, nobody's bothered about EPI. But they will have to. Right now, they don't. So my take on this is, I mean, are we looking at you as a brand, at trying to go a little bit the Bhutan way? For, say, if you're doing a hotel in Uttarakhand, or you're doing a hotel in Kathmandu or Nepal region, or are we just following what the contextually also, because you may not be wrong, because 90% buildings that are being built are with glass and other facades, but are we looking at that also, or we are happy with the way we are going?
So coming to that point, I recently visited Bhutan and I was really impressed the way the regulations, whatever urban design regulations are there. Because of that, the overall landscape and the skyline of that city is really beautiful. I saw it in Thimphu. And because they have very particular guidelines, and for every building, you have to follow that, whether it is hotel or whether it is hospital or whether it is offices. So that they can regulate, because there is some urban design guidelines and bylaws in place. If I talk about our context, those guidelines are not there. Bylaws are there, but the guidelines for the facade treatment, the treatment of the windows or fenestration is not there. So from the bylaw side, it's not there. So that is why it becomes our responsibility as a designer or a hotelier that we need to have some kind of initiative about that. And we have one initiative called Pathya, which is not only talking about the sustainability initiatives in the operations, but also in the design. So it guides us that whatever way you can imbibe that local elements or the regional elements in the design, that will add to the Pathya points. So not only as an art and craft, but also the local, using the local material in the facade, using the local elements in the facade. So I think that is the way forward for us, and it's a challenge that we need to accept and work towards those guidelines. And I think that is very important. So as we say, the technology surely owe an apology to the ecology. So I think we all should work in that direction. And we should, because there is no bylaw, so we should standardize those things in our system.
Senthil.
Sorry, as you was mentioning, actually, it's our theme is hospitality and just social responsibility. I think it has to come as a collective social responsibility. And as brands, we are one of the partners. Like suppose if we are building a hotel, actually we come as a brand. We do management agreement or franchisee with the ownership. So the vision, the strategy really matters. I think we all, what we do as a, any project, we do more of a strategic brand washing session with the ownership whenever we sign a project, trying to say, okay, what's your vision? I want to create a landmark in the city. Okay, we agree a landmark, but how? Like, are we really going to take follow the social responsibility route, or you don't want to really completely building, something really a strange element that's also going to look like a landmark in the city. So I think it's a collective responsibility we all have to align towards to make it happen. So as a brand, we push those things in terms of, starting from the design elements. Like we will never say, or nothing says that we want a glass facade. Okay, if the building really demands a glass facade, we'll go for it. Otherwise, we always tell that, okay, let's try to build a sustainable building, which really saves in all the aspects. Like a punch window really works a lot, do a lot of thing, but when it comes to aesthetics and a lot of other things to enhance the room conditions, views, that's when, the lot of interaction and interpretation happens into picture. Then we start really losing our point of things. Exactly.
That's precisely what we're saying.
Yeah. So, but that's what, I think somewhere we talked about Bhutan. So Bhutan is like, they are very particular about want. Like, I was there in Bhutan recently. Even if you go and see a Ford showroom, it doesn't look like a Ford showroom. It looks like an old Bhutan building. So they are very particular about what they want in the country. They have a vision where they are heading towards. I think we all need to set that vision where we are really heading towards as an overall target. That will really help everybody to move forward on this mission, I would say. Like our topic says, we all need to work irrespective of, Hilton or, Radisson or Taj.
Okay. Sahil?
Yeah.
Sure, please.
No, I want to talk about Bhutan because, we are talking about social responsibility, and I think we've taken that only to the design aspect of, not intimidating the locals with something which is which is alien to them. But we should talk now about the people. So I have been to Bhutan. I went for the what is it called? Mountain Echoes, the literary festival. And I have a funny story to tell you about it. I was in a hotel, and it's very quiet, as you know, and there was a lot of racket coming from down below. So we had nothing to do. So I walked down, and I got inside a hall, which was kind of makeshift hall. From the outside, it looked like Bhutan, but inside it was like a factory shed. And they were about 100 young Bhutanese people in jeans and T-shirt. There was a television screen, and it was like a discotheque. They were all freaking out. And then they came out dressed in their gos, and they became Bhutanese. So it's actually a circus. So what is happening is that one aspect that the three people who spoke about in the morning did not talk about, that, everything is evolving. The Bhagavad Gita says, Parivartan hi is the only constant, change is the only constant. So when you are doing that fabulous project in Mustang, and we can give 3 salutes to somebody who, says, I will educate these people here so they don't go out and they do this. But that's not how it works, because everything in India is cyclic. It's not linear, So that's the basic difference, and the mistake that we Indians also make, because we started thinking like the West. We say, you're born here and you die here. So when you're on this road and you say, God, I'm 60, I'm 70, I've got wrinkles, I've put anti-wrinkle cream. Nobody in Nepal is putting an anti-wrinkle cream because, they're gaining respect. You become a grandmother, great-grandmother. So we think of it like that. So aspirationally, when you prepare Mustang for what they are preparing, which is fantastic, but he said 60% of the girls are going to do this, 30% are going to do IT, then they're not going to come and stay there. History never repeats itself. They used to say history repeats itself, but today history only speeds itself. So what used to happen in 100 years happens in 10, what happened in 10 years happens in 1. So what will happen in this one generation as those fantastic children who looked lost and bewildered in some wilderness, when they become like the Tibetans, when they go to America to study, they don't come back. So this lot will not come back. So it is not that nirvana has come to that part of the Himalayas. It is taking something forward, but everything will change. So in that change, architecture is changing, must change, will continue to change. And the work that you showed me, is not it has no glass. He's done some wonderful work with bamboos and shed, but people are now proud to be in that. And just one example I want to give. In the I didn't talk about our hotels because we don't have that problem. But the Nimrana hotels are all heritage properties. So there is no issue of how you do the design. If 700 years ago somebody made a fort in a place, when you restore it, you must have hot water, you must have this swimming pool, all that. So you put it in a way, in the most non-intrusive way, but you don't have that design challenge that all of you who face a blank piece of paper and said, what will it look like? So from that advantage, we don't ruin those places, but when we've added a building within our hotels, there is enough sign in the foundations, enough sign in the windows, the arches, and the ceilings to carry that language and that idiom forward. I mean, unless you are totally stupid and not intuitive about it, architecture is always speaking to you. If you go in a street in Nepal, you cannot come back and design a glass cube. So I went to Hawaii for a small luxury hotels conference because Neemrana had opened, and somebody came and said it's the most fantastic hotel. And we had no air conditioning, we didn't have telephones in the room, we didn't have television, we didn't have anything, you know. And the Queen of England's niece came there. So we were the first small luxury hotel of India for 2 years. And I kept saying, but you know, we're not about luxury. And in that conference, I learned something very exciting. There were 200 owners of small luxury hotels. And the most expensive hotel those days was, I think it was $250, and it was in the Fiji Islands. So people came by water plane, and they were received by the local people in the water because they were wearing grass skirts, and they would walk up to the plane and offer you a papaya, which was cold, and whatever, and then you kind of walk, you got into a boat, you came, there was no electricity, there was no water. So you came out of your room, you had a hand pump, and you brushed your teeth, and you paid $250. So I realized very early, also in my upbringing, that less was always going to be more. So what started happening in India was a competition between the hotel chains, you know. Now 3-star, now 4-star, 5-star is not enough, it's deluxe, it's 7-star, which is the wrong race. Because if we are talking of social responsibility, our responsibility above all is to the people where we are building that hotel. You cannot have a man who comes from a slum with a tin roof and a mud wall, and you're paying 40,000 rupees a night, and you're saying there's one hair on the pillow, but he says, so what, there are 100 hair on my pillow, you know? So I think you have to move India and Bharat together, which is happening, but we shouldn't race ahead so much and become so rarefied in design, in service, in everything. And the current movement, like we really enjoyed the lunch. Yep. And the lunch was fantastic because that man explained us that soup is, they have it in Nepal when they have a Janeyu ceremony. So it's like a special soup for a special occasion. So we got that. And we got the flavors. It was there. The Nepalese cow suey, it was delicious. So I think that the word glocal was not there in the 60s or 70s or 80s. I think it came in 2000. Or when did it come? So that is the movement that is now going to guide us forward.
Sahil.
Before I answer your question on a lighter note, I think I'm the only one on this panel who hasn't been to Bhutan, so maybe I need to go to Bhutan soon. Now, my answer to your question shall be in 2 parts. Let me just take a step back, and the way I look at it, design and fashion are both cyclic in nature. And when I was growing up, there was a particular fashion of clothes that one would see. Suddenly you saw that they were out of fashion, and again the trends are coming back. The point that I wish to make is, so it is true for design. Design is a movement, and if I can just take a step back, in late 90s, early 2000s, you saw these sudden springing up of glass facades, glass structures, which were very fashionable back then, because India before that had not seen those sort of buildings, and they grabbed everybody's attention. Before that era, I mean, we had very humble buildings. They wouldn't appeal to the common eye, you know. And as a result, what happened was that you suddenly saw these central business districts which had glass facades one after the other. And now that we are in excess of it, and now as a society, now that we are realizing that how these buildings are impacting our social responsibility, now there's a movement again to go back to our origins. To answer your question, whether we as a brand, are we going the glass way or the Bhutan way? The answer is very simple. If we are building a hotel in the middle of Gurgaon or in the middle of Nariman Point, of course we will build a building, build a hotel which will belong to the environment. And if we are building a hotel in Kumarakom, it will be a building which always belong there. You know, we'll try and create a building, a hotel, which would look as if it was always part of the growth of the city, and it has always been part of the city.
Great. Chris, what is your take on this? Sorry, Singer. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's an interesting topic because we've just started a project in Bhutan, and we've just made the first few visits, and we understand the very prescriptive way in which the authorities expect you to develop there. So it's going to be really interesting, but I think you can't have everywhere as Bhutan, you know. It's a very particular location. It's quite, I mean, tourists have to pay $100 a day just to go there. So it does put their product at a certain level for people that can afford a premium product, and they can build in ways that are not the cheapest to maintain that aesthetic because of that. That's the market. So I think other places that's not possible. And, you know, I think also confident countries allow their designers to develop in a bit more freedom. And, you know, the architecture of today will be the traditional architecture of, you know, 200 years from now. So I think there's also an argument for being able to create those landmarks in the city. Often it's the owners that we deal with that really are driving what these projects should be. And quite often they like to make, you know, a statement. So I don't think it can be one thing or the other. I think it has to be both. And then people have the choice, you know, you can go to Bhutan or you can go to Dubai, you know, and both are equally enjoyable. Right. Probably do both in the same year.
That's a democratic way of saying it. All right. I appreciate what everybody has said. I think I would like to surmise by saying that irrespective of whether it's Bhutan or local or traditional, the attempt as an architect or as a developer or as a brand should be to localize as much as we can rather than importing as much as we want from outside. That will not be doing justice to the society where this project is being built. We should try and train as much as local people, train locals. Like in Kathmandu, if we have to import everything else, we are not doing justice to this country because that much of money is going out. So why should we not try and find and localize and don't specify things which are not available here? So that's my first take. And I think at the same time, as designers, like I opened an office here only to be able to train some junior architects here so that tomorrow they don't need to hire us from India. So that's the intent to be, you can pay back to the society and be responsible to the society. Any questions now? I think we are on time. Please. Send the mic. Anup, oh yeah, okay.
Anil, I have a question for you.
Yeah, please.
Suppose tomorrow you decide to build a hotel. Would you appoint consultants?
Good question. I will, I think I will appoint consultants for sure, because I can only do architecture, but I'll have to have structure, MEP, ID, landscape, everybody else. So I can do architecture. I may not hire an architect, but if it is for my wife, she won't even trust me for that. She'll hire an architect for her house. So.
I just have a statement, and in that there is a question. I think we're so good at creating new abbreviations each time we want to develop something. So there is this concept of glocal, which is global marrying local. Why don't we just go local? That's my first question to all of you. The second thing is, I think the evolution of the development of what they've done in Ujjain and what we are seeing happening in Ayodhya gives you enough input of what we can do within the country and where we can source from. If the government can do it and those architects can do it, I'm sure all of you can do it. And Anil, I think you will remember many years ago, I was in a similar conference with you in Colombo and I asked you this question. So when you all started your career in architecture, and Sahil and I many years ago at Oberoi had this conversation, in how you were taught how to create natural airflows and corridors, as was done in the Rajasthani forts, seems to have been forgotten. And you admitted that was true. Why don't you bring that in? Because that's the way it was done. It was environmentally friendly. It was less consumptive. It was local, and it used the local materials. I think too much of the focus coming from the internationalization and therefore a brand structure limits you guys from doing the right thing. And I think it's about time architects and owners took the onus to say, okay, we'll follow the fundamental brand standards, but we've got to build sustainable, locally based concepts. You find your brand fitment within those segments, is my honest request to everybody. Thanks.
Who will take that question? Would anybody like to answer that? Or is that question to me? To me? Oh, I'm the moderator here, by the way.
No, actually what you are saying is interesting theoretically, but if you want to do a local building, let's say here, and create a hall like this in which we are sitting, you have a problem, because how much wood will you use, how much carving, how will you span it, will it be fire resistant? So I think theoretically we have lots of good ideas, but then they have to match with all the technologies that people have announced in this room so that it should be friendly to this, that and the other. And so it is a challenge, which is what the beauty of architecture.
I think I know what he's asking for. I'll tell you what. What you're saying is actually very correct. That is the way the architecture should be practiced by everybody. There's no denying on that. But if you go back to the history, when that was created, there was no technology available at that time. That was only the whatever technology that they had, the construction system, the materials and everything. Today, the technology is completely transformed, society is transformed. We are talking about AI, and our comfort conditions have changed. A lot of things have changed. The biggest thing that has changed is the population. At that time, what was the population? Was the population now? Now the land is so, there's so much of pressure on the land, there is no way, even if you want to go that way, build that way. There are ways, the passive ways to make a building, but then passive is only up to a limit that you can do. Ultimately, when it comes to luxury or when it comes to hotels, the guy has to have 23 degrees centigrade temperature in the room, and he has to have perfect humidity there. Yes, it is possible that way, but giving that kind of comfort may not be possible. So I think in certain projects we do still use that. We tried wherever there is possibility, we would use a lot of passive systems, like we've given open corridors, microclimates have been changed, we have not air conditioned those. So we are trying to work that way, but it's only on certain projects. Quite a few projects where there's plot size only 2,000 square meter and the guy wants to do 150 rooms, FAR is available, what can you do? You have to create a matchbox.
Can I also come?
Yeah, please.
She's saying shut up.
Yeah, she'll, now I
Polite.
think she's going to get very angry.
Just very quickly,
To your point, Mr. Keswani, I mean, I 100% agree with you. We've done a hotel in Kumbhalgarh, and we've done exactly what was expected out of a site in Kumbhalgarh, and the school, the Radisson Blu in Kumbhalgarh, the school that you and I went to, you know, where we learned the nuances of hospitality. We have tried to replicate all those things that, you know, your teacher as well as mine taught us. And when you go and see that hotel, not one thing is imported. Every stone, the wood, all furniture is locally sourced. I won't say furniture meaning it's produced in a factory outside of Udaipur. The stone is all local, the building is non-air conditioned, at least the public areas. Of course, the rooms have to be air conditioned. So much that you have said, we're trying to replicate. And as far as we are concerned, we don't have any very fixed standards on architecture. What we do have as a group are certain look and feel documents with regards to the interior design and the performance of the building. So as far as you can, you know, do justice to the brand philosophy, there is enough and more room to sort of make a building which belongs to that place.
All right, I think we are out of time, sorry. We are all available for your question answer at a later date.
Can I
I would
ask
love to answer you over the drink in the evening. All right. So we'll do that.
one question, Mr. Sharma.
Yeah.
Okay, Bhutan, I just wanted to make a disclosure here. Bhutan has a very restricted development. Till about 3 years ago, they used to allow only about 60 rooms. Now they've enhanced the number of rooms permission to about 80, I guess. So that is one model which we can't replicate everywhere. So my question to any one of the panelists here is that, you know, I had attended a hospitality conference many years ago. At that time, AI was in a very nascent stages. Today, we hear about AI far, far more often. So my question is, as Sahil had said that maybe for lower category hotels like Ginger or Holiday Inn Express, is it possible, do you think, that AI would at some point take over the designers?
Anybody else to answer this?
Thank you.
We've discussed this in one of the earlier AiM conferences when we said no interaction. I mean, there are hotels in Europe where you get the key and you just go and don't get to see anybody in the hotel. So that was a discussion where they said hotel is also about personal engagement and this thing. So I think one of the clips we will check with AiM, we can share that session details with you.
With this, as the host and the timekeeper, I have to, in a very polite way, shut this panel discussion now because we have we did bring forward a lot of different points when asking this crucial question as to if present-day hotels are a threat to traditional architecture, and we believe, you know, that balancing comfort, culture, and incorporating sustainability along with doing justice to the brand guidelines are important. May I please invite on stage Mr. Ramesh Kaul to kindly join us and present this token of appreciation to all our fabulous panelists as well as our moderator for doing a fantastic job in trying their best to answer this hard-hitting question. And we definitely hope Mr. Sharma has in mind who we are giving this particular coupon to as well. I think there were about 3 questions, but we're giving it to 1. A group photograph, ladies and gentlemen, to end this fantastic discussion we had in the 3rd session, which was all about our present-day hotels, a threat to traditional architecture. And we have a winner. Mr. Anup Bali will be getting this coupon. So we'd like to invite him to kindly join us onto the stage, and we'd like to request Mr. Cole and Mr. Sharma to kindly present this. Again, ladies and gentlemen, during this tea break, please do feel free to interact with our exhibitors who have put up some fantastic stalls, are talking about some great products and services that they offer. You can definitely interact with them. We definitely hope that you do interact with them. And now it's time for a short tea break. Please do have a lovely cup of refreshing tea and coffee, and we hope to see you all back in the next 15 minutes. So requesting all our distinguished guests to be back in 15 minutes.